Hello, I'm Ruth Hull. I trained as a homeopathic doctor and an integrative health consultant, and I help people who are struggling with fatigue and burnout, people who really want to rebuild their health and regain their energy. You can find me at ruthhull.com. That's ruthhull.com. Today, I want to chat to you a little bit about gluten. You might be wondering, should I really give up gluten? Do I really have to stop eating gluten? There's so much controversial information out there at the moment about gluten. So many websites talk about how it's fine and how you should only give it up if you're actually allergic to it or if you've been diagnosed with celiac disease. And then there's other websites that will say, oh, you shouldn't touch gluten, you have to give it up, it's highly inflammatory. I've been working in health for 23 years. 10 of those years, I personally struggled with fatigue. And one day my husband said to me, I've listened to a podcast all about gluten, and I'm going to try giving up gluten because he actually had a running injury. He had Achilles tendonitis. He was a runner, or he is a runner, and he had to stop running because of the tendonitis. So he said to me, I'm going to give up gluten. What do you think? And I said, oh, well, try it. But, I know lots about health and I don't think gluten's bad for you. This was quite a long time ago, a couple of years ago now. So he thought, no, he's going to just try it because he was really struggling with his tendonitis and he had tried so many things. So then I said to him, well, in support of you, I'll also give it up. We can just do it for 30 days, completely gluten-free for 30 days, and let's see if it improves your Achilles tendonitis. So I gave it up, and after, it was difficult, there's no doubt about it, but after 2 weeks, I had the most phenomenal changes in my own health. The main thing was that my brain fog lifted. I struggled with fatigue for many years, and one of the worst things about my personal fatigue was the brain fog, the concentration problems, and the memory problems. I was teaching health at the time, teaching natural therapies. I'd have the same students for a whole year, but often I would go in and I would be talking to them. I'd be thinking, oh, I can't remember your name. People I know really well, I would forget their name while I was talking to them. I would forget. Often it was just words, things I knew really, really well, but that they just have slipped from my mind. And 2 weeks of being completely gluten-free, that brain fog, that foggy head, that feeling like I had a cloud or cotton wool in my head, that constant tiredness lifted, and my memory really improved. I still struggle with my memory, and I find that I try to live gluten-free most of the time, but on weekends I do love to have a chocolate croissant or some French bread. I do love bread. I'm Zimbabwean. I was brought up on bread and peanut butter. So when I have too much gluten, then I notice I can really feel the difference. I can really feel that brain fog coming back, and I can really feel I really notice how I can't remember words. Okay, so a little bit more about gluten. Gluten is actually a compound of groups of 2 different groups of proteins. Your glutenins and your gliadins. And many people are intolerant of or sensitive to just one of those proteins in those groups and can have a reaction to it. Your foods, there's so many foods that contain gluten, and unfortunately, gluten is also one of the biggest food additives. It's added to so many different things. You'll find even margarines, some margarines, some all different sources, they have gluten added to it. Because gluten is like a glue, it binds things and it holds them together. So foods that contain gluten are, of course, your wheat, your rye, your spelt, couscous, wheat germ, semolina, barley. There's so many different foods that contain gluten, in addition to the foods that it might be added to, the highly processed foods that it's added to. Sorry, I've just got an itchy nose. I have to give it a good, a little scratch. Okay, so back to gluten. How do you know if you're sensitive to gluten and if you should give it up? Well, according to Dr. David Perlmutter, who is a world-renowned neurologist and who's done a lot of research into gluten, he says at least 40% of the general population is intolerant of gluten. And even if you're not allergic to it, you can be intolerant. If you have any of the following symptoms, which I'm going to just list quickly, then there's a good chance that they may be due to gluten or due to too much gluten. So symptoms such as your gut issues. So if you find that whenever you eat something, you get bloated, you get windy, you get cramps, you get pain, that could be caused by gluten. But so can a lot of other symptoms, especially those associated with fatigue and burnout. So I've mentioned brain fog and memory problems and concentration difficulties, but there's also anxiety and depression can be associated to too much gluten. A lot of joint pain, muscular pain, you know, the neck tension, muscle aches, inflamed joints. We see a lot of joint pain in people with chronic fatigue or chronic fatigue syndrome, especially after they've exercised. Post-exertional malaise is the correct term for it. And that's often because your body is so inflamed. And skin rashes, a lot of skin rashes, urticaria, hives, eczema, these can also be aggravated by gluten. Why? Now you might be thinking, okay, Ruth, you give me all these funny symptoms, but why? Why does gluten do this to us? What is it about gluten? So there's two things that gluten does to aggravate our bodies and to cause health problems. The first is that it is very inflammatory. Gluten is just known to be inflammatory. When I say inflammatory, what I mean is that our body reacts to it. It sees it as foreign and causes an immune response, which is an inflammatory response. So that's why we can have the joint swelling, the joint pain. We can get the brain fog. That's actually sort of your brain is on fire when you have too many inflammatory foods. So that's the one thing, is it causes an immune response, an inflammatory immune response. The other is that gluten, along with many other grains, so even your gluten-free grains, sorry, I'm full of itches today. My nose, my neck, everything's itching. I don't know why. Too much of something inflammatory. So your grains and your glutens can be can cause what is called gut hyperpermeability, more commonly called leaky gut, where they actually aggravate or irritate the lining of the gut, and other proteins and other molecules can actually pass through the gut lining and get into the bloodstream and cause, again, a big immune response. So what do I recommend you do? It is difficult, but if you are struggling with any of the symptoms I've mentioned, such as the gut issues, all the brain fog, the fatigue, memory problems, concentration difficulties, skin rashes, urticaria or hives, joint pain, muscular aches and pains, headaches, I didn't mention, but headaches is another symptom. If you're really struggling with these, you need to do something. Don't ignore these symptoms. And a really, really good place to start, where I see so many people improving, is just try to give up gluten. Try it for 30 days. So give up the wheat, give up the barley, the rye, replace it with potatoes. Potatoes are gluten-free, sweet potatoes, quinoa, rice is gluten-free. Rice is a grain, so Some grains are gluten-free, but they can cause problems with some people, but not everyone. But if you're just trying to give up gluten, yeah, rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes, quinoa, tapioca, buckwheat is also gluten-free. Corn, millet, so there are things you can replace it with. You can just try and eat a lot more vegetables and decrease your carbs as well. Just try it for 30 days. And before you begin, write down how you're feeling now. Just write down all your signs and symptoms and your moods. Keep track of them maybe for 3 days, and then give up the gluten for 30 days. And then see how you're feeling, and you might just be blown away. You might be amazed at how much better you feel. If it's not the gluten that's causing your problems, causing your symptoms, or if you've already given up gluten and it's made no difference, then you'll need to go a little bit further and do a proper elimination diet. This can be really hard. I've got a little resource you can download. You can see it in the notes below, or you can find it at ruthhull.com/diet. And here I talk you through how to do a proper elimination diet, because if it's not the gluten, it might be something else you're eating that is really causing you to feel so tired, causing you to be in pain, causing you to have these reactions. So that's all for today. I hope I've shed a little bit of light on the whole topic of gluten. I know it's controversial, but instead of just reading things and listening to other people's advice, if you're struggling with your health, then why not try giving it up? Try it for 30 days and see if it makes a difference to you or not. Each and every one of us is different. We're not all the same. There's not one cure for everything for everyone. Unfortunately, I wish there was. But for you personally, it might just be gluten that is really making you feel horrible. So try it. 30 days. It's not that long. Alrighty, that's all for now. Take care, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks for listening. Bye.